Chapter 93. His actions stung Seong-won's eyes. Magoo pursed his lips and looked at him ambiguously. Did he want to torture the single person? Instead of torturing the single person, it was Song Ju-yue's turn. No matter how hard Song Ju-yue tried, she couldn't hide the paleness of her face. Gu Yenhao was going to teach Song Woo archery. He was standing behind Song Woo, and his chest seemed to be pressed against Song Woo's back. Song Ju-yue gritted her teeth, but as Magoo was looking at her from time to time, she tried her best to squeeze out a smile. She tried not to show the jealousy in her heart. Magoo and Gu Yenhao were good friends. When Magoo saw her jealous expression, it was as if Gu Yenhao saw it with his own eyes. This was because Magoo would tell Gu Yenhao everything. This hand holds the bow, this hand holds the arrow, and then draw the bow. As Gu Yenhao spoke, he taught Song Woo how to load the arrow and draw the bow. His tone was not high, which made his voice sound deeper and more pleasant. As his voice rang in her ears, she could feel his breath behind her. His big palm held her small hand, and it was filled with his warmth. This warmth spread from her hand to her heart. Song Woo's heart felt as if it was gently brushed by a soft feather. Then, it was as if there was a mischievous deer bumping around inside, making her heart skip a beat and then beat faster. This feeling was very unfamiliar and very throbbing. Song Woo was in a daze. Her mind was a little scattered, and she couldn't concentrate on thinking, with him like this, which woman would still be in the mood to learn archery? Are you sure? Aim the arrow at the target. Gu Yenhao lowered his head slightly, and his voice was mellow. Song Woo's face was a little red, and she nodded her head. Let go, shoot. Gu Yenhao taught her to let go. Whoosh. The arrow flew out. But, the arrow hit the target, but it didn't hit the center. Furthermore, it was very, very remote. Song Woo pursed her lips and glanced at Song Ju-yue. Song Ju-yue happened to look at her as well. As their eyes met, Song Ju-yue's eyes flashed with jealousy. Song Woo curled her lips and threw her a provocative smile. Soon, she sighed and said to Gu Yenhao in disappointment, I can't even hit the target with your guidance. Without you, I can't even hit the target. Her tone was filled with disappointment. Gu Yenhao wrapped his arms around her body, lowered his head slightly, and gently rested his chin on the top of her head. His voice was deep and pleasant to the ear. It's okay. If you can't hit it the first time, you can shoot a second time, a third time, until you hit it. Pfft. Magoo suddenly laughed out loud. Ah ho, why did I think the wrong way when I heard that? Gu Yenhao repeated the action just now. As he taught Song Woo how to draw the bow, he said to Magoo, your brain is already crooked. Isn't it normal for you to think the wrong way? When Song Woo heard that, she couldn't help but smile. She turned her head to look at Magoo to see if his brain was really crooked. Don't look around. Gu Yenhao gently tapped Song Woo's head with his chin. Oh. Song Woo stuck out her tongue and let him teach her archery. Song Ju-yue, who was watching from the side, was so jealous that her face turned pale. She was afraid that Gu Yenhao and Magoo would find out, so she simply turned her back to them and pretended to play with the bow. In fact, when they couldn't see her, her gaze was extremely cold. Damn Song Woo. Young Master Gu was originally very annoyed with her. Why was he suddenly so nice to her? What tricks did this bitch use to bewitch young Master Gu? After teaching Song Woo a few times, Song Woo strongly wanted to shoot by herself. A living man was standing behind her. It was hot. Chapter 94. Moreover, he seemed to be doing it on purpose as his entire body was pressed against her back. If he wanted to teach her archery, did he have to be so close to her? Didn't he know that his body temperature was frighteningly high? Gu Yanhao did not force her. Before he left, he gently bit her earlobe. Song Wuyo shuddered and goosebumps appeared all over her body. If she had not wanted to piss off Song Jiuyue and gotten ambushed, she would have elbowed him. Ah ho, don't torture the single people here. It hurts my eyes. Magoo smiled ambiguously. Song Jiuyue, whose back was facing them, felt a sharp pain in her heart when she heard these words. Could it be that young Master Gu had kissed Song Wuyo? She turned around and looked at Gu Yanhao. He had already left Song Wuyo behind and said coldly to Magoo, there will be something even more painful later. When Magoo heard this, he narrowed his eyes and looked at Gu Yanhao unhappily. Don't remind me, ah ho. Song Jiuyue glanced at Song Jiumei, only to see her gloomy and jealous gaze staring at Song Wuyo. Song Jiuyue raised her eyebrows. Did young Master Gu really kiss Song Wuyo just now? She looked at Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo was practicing archery very hard. There was a faint smile on her face as she played with the bow awkwardly. Seeing that her face was fair and rosy under the sunlight, Song Jiuyue secretly gritted her teeth. Bitch! She cursed in her heart. How could Song Wuyo not know that the two sisters were looking at her as if she was their enemy? She turned around and looked at Song Jiuyue shyly and helplessly. My husband has taught me so many times, but I still don't know how to do it. It seems that I can't compete with you. Gu Yanhao's eyes darkened when he heard the word husband. He turned his head and couldn't help but smile as he looked at Song Wuyo with interest. He liked hearing her call him hubby. It's okay, I haven't practiced in a long time. Let's practice together. Song Jiuyue smiled generously. You're so good at shooting arrows in the game. You must be good at shooting arrows, Song Jiumei echoed. She couldn't wait for Song Wuyo to run laps with Magoo. You women can practice here slowly. We'll come back to watch the competition later. Magoo gave Gu Yanhao a flirtatious look. Ah ho, go take a look at the horse I brought in. Gu Yanhao glanced at Song Wuyo. He still wanted to teach her archery. What's so nice about a horse? You'll know when we get there. Magoo looked at him ambiguously. Choose a good horse so that you can bring your wife to ride it. Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows when he heard that. It seemed like a good idea. Just the thought of them riding the horse together was enough to put him in a good mood. Be good and practice here. I'm looking forward to you winning. Gu Yanhao reached out and stroked Song Wuyo's hair gently. Song Wuyo raised her head and smiled at him gently. She nodded obediently. Okay, after Gu Yanhao left, Song Jiuyue and Song Jiumei could no longer pretend. Song Wuyo, are you happy now? Song Jiumei went forward fiercely as if she wanted to grab Song Wuyo and beat her up. Her tone was cold with a hint of anger. Song Wuyo pretended that she didn't know anything and looked at Song Jiumei in confusion. Why are you so fierce if I'm happy? Song Jiuyue raised her eyebrows and looked at Song Jiumei suspiciously. Why was Song Jiumei's mood more intense than hers? I can't stand your vixen look. Song Jiumei said angrily. Song Wuyo stuck out her tongue playfully. As long as Gu Yanhao likes it, I don't care if you like it or not. Chapter 95. What sly tricks did you use to seduce young Master Gu? When Song Wuyo heard this, she raised her eyebrows in amusement and looked at Song Jiumei coldly. Gu Yanhao and I are husband and wife. Do we still need to seduce each other? You're so jealous when you see us loving each other. Are you trying to seduce my husband? I'm not. Song Jiumei was stunned and felt a little guilty. She raised her chin and stared at Song Wuyo like a clown. I'm not as cheap as you. You have no manners, Song Wuyo said coldly. She was the noble consort Song. Even if she fell out of favor and was banished to the cold palace, she would not be jealous or resentful of the favored concubines. Song Jiumei had nothing to do with Gu Yanhao, but she was always jealous that Gu Yanhao treated her well. She felt that this was uncultured and uneducated behavior. Who are you calling uncultured? Song Jiumei was so angry that she wanted to hit someone. Song Wuyo ignored her and moved to the side to continue practicing archery. Song Jiumei looked at Song Wuyo angrily. Song Wuyo, you're going to lose. Song Wuyo fearlessly curled her lips and revealed a faint smile. I'm already so good at archery in that world. I won't be afraid of you here. That's the world of online games. Song Jiumei smiled contemptuously. If I say you're stupid, then you're stupid. Other than your pretty face, your brain is like a pig's brain. You always like to be in the limelight and be so arrogant. I'll make you lose badly later. So noisy. Song Wuyo glared at Song Jiumei unhappily. I want to practice. Shut up. From beginning to end, Song Jiuyue silently looked at Song Wuyo. Previously, Song Jiumei had told her that Song Wuyo had changed. She was still in disbelief. Now that she looked at her up close, she realized that she had really changed. It wasn't her clothes that had changed, but her temperament and aura, as well as her indifferent gaze. If it was in the past, when Song Jiumei quarreled with her, she would not admit defeat and would be even more shrewd than Song Jiumei. Now, her indifferent expression was filled with disdain and ridicule as she looked at Song Jiumei. It was as if she was telling Song Jiumei that she was a clown and that she disdained arguing with a clown. Song Jiuyue frowned slightly and looked at Song Wuyo with a scrutinizing gaze. Had her personality really changed? You. Song Jiumei was very unhappy that she was ignored. She wanted to continue attacking and provoke Song Wuyo, but Song Jiuyue suddenly pulled her back and looked at her sternly. Jiumei, that's enough. Song Jiumei stomped her feet and looked at Song Jiuyue aggrievedly. Big sister, Song Wuyo is too much. Song Wuyo sneered. She had gone too far. Why didn't she know where she had gone too far? I think you're the one who's gone too far. Although Song Jiuyue hated Song Wuyo, she was very tolerant and was not as impulsive as Song Wuyo. Song Jiuyue looked at Song Wuyo and said coldly, Song Wuyo, let's compete. If she won, Song Wuyo would have to listen to her. Song Wuyo was a little confused. But I haven't practiced well yet. Song Jiuyue curled her lips and revealed a smug smile. You don't have to practice anymore. You can't win against me. How do you know I can't win if I haven't tried? If you admit defeat, I'll leave you some dignity. What dignity? Didn't we agree just now? If I win, you have to listen to me. Aren't you afraid that I'll make you my servant if I win? Song Jiuyue curled her lips and raised her chin like a proud peacock. Chapter 96. Why don't you take the initiative to surrender to me? Song Wuyo said. If you surrender to me, I can save some face for you. What a joke. Song Jiumei could not help but interrupt. You want to win against us with this little ability? You can't even win against us, so why should we surrender to you? Song Wuyo raised her chin and stared at Song Jiumei arrogantly. How do you know that I can't win before the final result? After a pause, she said, I'm so good at games, so I can definitely play well in real life. Song Jiuyue looked at Song Wuyo silently and sneered in her heart. She thought that Song Wuyo had changed. Now that she saw her arrogant and unwilling to admit defeat, wasn't she the same as Song Wuyo in the past? We'll know who wins and who loses in the competition. Song Jiuyue raised her chin proudly. How about you go first? Song Wuyo smiled happily as if she could get a bargain first. I'll go first. Song Jiuyue and Song Jiumei stood at the side and watched. Song Wuyo loaded the arrow and pulled the bow, whoosh. When she let go, the string loosened and the arrow flew out. Song Jiuyue and Song Jiumei raised their voices as they watched the arrow fly out. When they saw the result, Song Jiumei suddenly laughed out loud. The arrow was actually slanted and brushed past the target. Sigh. Song Wuyo shook her head in disappointment and then frowned. Why is it so ridiculously slanted? Song Wuyo, just you wait to run circles. Song Jiumei looked at Song Wuyo proudly. Song Wuyo was very unhappy. She shook her head and did not forget to mutter, "What's going on? In that world, you can shoot as accurately as you want. Why can't I find the feeling here?" This was the truth. This arrow was far worse than in her previous life. When Song Jiuyue heard this, she snorted disdainfully. She turned around and gracefully stood in front of the archery platform. Her lips curled up into an elegant smile, and her eyes sparkled with pride. Song Wuyo, it's my turn, she said proudly. Please. Song Wuyo continued to study modern bows. To her, the current bow and arrow cut corners. Song Jiuyue's arrow hit the target, but it didn't hit the center. But compared to Song Wuyo, it was obvious that she had won this round. Song Wuyo raised her head and glanced in front of her. She frowned slightly. Did you hit him? Song Jiuyue raised her chin proudly. Although you didn't hit the center, you hit the target. You've lost this round. You first. Song Wuyo was extremely impatient. In Song Jiuyue's eyes, her impatience was an evasion. She didn't want to face her own incompetence. Song Jiuyue's lips curled up into a wide smile. She picked up an arrow, loaded the bow, and shot another round. The result was the same as before. She hit the target, but not the center. Song Jiuyue was very satisfied with this result. She put down the bow and said to Song Wuyo calmly, I've won both rounds. Song Wuyo, run laps with Migu later. Song Jiumei laughed sinisterly. And streaking. Humph. Song Wuyo raised her chin and looked straight at Song Jiuyue. You only hit the target, and that means you've won. What if I hit the center both times? You're bragging. Song Jiumei laughed disdainfully. Song Wuyo smiled and took out an arrow from the side. This time, her action of loading the arrow and drawing the bow was not as perfunctory as before. Instead, it was proper. Her movements were elegant and dashing. Chapter 97. The way she aimed was very serious and cool. At this moment, Song Jiuyue saw the coldness in her eyes. Song Jiuyue frowned and looked at Song Wuyo quietly. Why was she different from how she was earlier? Why did she feel that she had a strong aura? Song Wuyo aimed at the target in front of her and prepared to release the bowstring. Her posture and the way she pulled the bowstring were 100 times more skillful than before. Song Jiumei curled her lips in disdain. See, Song Wuyo is acting cool again. 1 minute later. Song Wuyo had not released the arrow in her hand. Song Jiumei was anxious. Hurry up and shoot. Are you afraid to shoot? Song Wuyo raised her eyebrows. She thought about the first time she learned archery in her previous life when she was 10 years old. She was childhood friends with the heartless man. He liked to play with archery and often said that he wanted to be a great general when he grew up. Song Wuyo knew that he would join the army when she was young. So, in order to be with him, she also liked what he liked when he was young. When he learned archery, she learned from him. When he learned to ride a horse, she learned from him. When he learned martial arts and swordsmanship, she learned from him. Her archery skills were taught by him and his father. She was 10 years old and he was 13. When he taught her any skills, he was like an older brother. He was serious and could not bear to teach her. Their childhood was beautiful. Even the 8 years when they were in the war were beautiful. It was until he conquered his own country and had his own palace that everything changed. When she thought of this, Song Wuyo's eyes dimmed. There was a hint of pain in her heart. She blinked and suddenly her back stiffened. Was she stupid? She actually thought that the target in front of her was the heartless man and wanted to end his life with an arrow. Let's see if he still dared to punish her. That's a pure-blooded horse. It's gentle and fast. I call it Flash. Magoo laughed. They had chosen their horses and were walking back to Song Wuyo side by side. Gu Yanhao looked indifferent. I'll still use Ah Hei. Although Ah Hei was raised in Magoo's ranch, Gu Yanhao would ride it every time he came. No matter how good the Flash that Magoo spoke of was, in his opinion, he could not compare to his Ah Hei. Magoo laughed. Alright, let's see who's the real Flash between my Flash and your Ah Hei. Why haven't you shot? Song Jiumei stomped her feet anxiously. If you lose, so be it. What's the point of stalling for time? Song Wuyo did not hear Song Jiumei's words, but Magoo and Gu Yanhao's words reached her ears. She tilted her head and glanced in that direction. They looked extremely handsome in their riding outfits. After looking at the horses, Magoo knew that he would be running naked. So, he went back to get a white scarf and wrapped it around his lower body. But he did not wear it. Instead, he put it around Gu Yanhao's neck. The wind blew, and the white scarf around Gu Yanhao's neck danced in the wind. The similar face, the similar figure, and the similar coldness made Song Wuyo, who was already immersed in her memories, think of Gu Yanhao as the heartless man from her previous life. When she saw the scarf dancing in the wind in front of Gu Yanhao, she saw the white silk that Eunuch Chu had brought her. The white silk lay neatly in Eunuch Chu's hands. Eunuch Chu was reading a decree to her. After the decree, she looked at Eunuch Chu in despair. His eyes were cold, without a trace of warmth. He said that he would personally judge her and send her on her way. At that time, her heart was numb from the pain. She could not feel anything and did not know how afraid she was of death. She only felt despair, pain, and sorrow. Chapter 98. She had not done anything wrong. Why did he have to kill her? Why did he have to kill her entire family? Why did she not have a share in the empire that she had fought for with him? Song Wuyo suddenly felt hatred. She hated him for being so heartless. She really wanted to end his life with an arrow. She slowly turned around, and the arrowhead followed along with her movements. Her arrow was aimed in the direction of Song Jiuyue. Song Jiuyue was shocked, and her face changed. Song Wuyo, are you crazy? Song Jiumei came forward, wanting to take away Song Wuyo's arrow. Go away. Song Wuyo suddenly said coldly. Her gaze was cold, without a trace of warmth. Song Jiumei was shocked by her gaze, and she stopped in her tracks. Song Wuyo, don't do anything rash. Song Wuyo was really afraid that Song Jiuyue would be hurt by Song Wuyo's arrow. Song Wuyo ignored Song Jiumei, and the arrow that was aimed at Song Jiuyue deviated. It went past her and aimed at Gu Yanhao, who was walking toward them. Song Jiuyue looked straight at the arrow, but when she saw that the arrow had deviated and did not seem to be aimed at her, she turned around curiously. She saw Gu Yanhao walking toward her with the wind. He was handsome and noble, like a man who had walked out of a painting. Song Jiuyue's eyes shone with amazement. However, when she thought of Song Wuyo, she turned around abruptly and looked at Song Woo-yo in shock. Song Woo-yo, what are you doing? At this moment, Song Woo-yo's mind was filled with questions. Why did he treat her like this? She had been upright all her life and had not done anything wrong. Why did he want to sentence her to death and destroy her family? She could not see Song Jo-yue at all, let alone hear her growl. Song Jo-yue was worried that she would hurt Gu Yenhao and wanted to stop her. But then he thought about it. Gu Yenhao was skilled in martial arts, and Song Woo-yo's archery skills were poor, so she might not be hurt. She might as well let her hurt him. That way, Gu Yenhao would not treat her well. Thinking that Gu Yenhao would hate Song Woo-yo as much as before, Song Jo-yue really hoped that Song Woo-yo could hurt Gu Yenhao. Of course, the injuries shouldn't be too serious. Just some superficial wounds would do. Like Song Jo-yue, Song Jo-mei was worried that Song Woo-yo would hurt Gu Yenhao. But when she received Song Jo-yue's gaze, she stepped back in a daze and stood aside, looking at Song Woo-yo in surprise. Was this woman crazy? Why did he aim the arrow at Master Gu? Gu Yenhao and Megu were getting closer and closer. Seeing Song Woo-yo aiming the arrow at him, Gu Yenhao raised his eyebrows, curled his lips, and looked at her with interest. Megu looked at Song Woo-yo and said to Gu Yenhao with a smile, "Your wife wants to shoot you." Gu Yenhao curled his lips and smiled faintly. "Do you think she knows how to shoot?" Megu asked. Gu Yenhao stopped in his tracks because he was getting closer. He saw despair and hatred in Song Woo-yo's eyes, as well as heartache. They were about 20 meters apart. He took in Song Woo-yo's expression completely. Gu Yenhao raised his eyebrows and looked at her deeply. Why was she looking at him with such eyes? It was as if she really hated him so much that she wanted to kill him with an arrow. Her desperate and cold eyes made Gu Yenhao's heart feel as if it was being squeezed tightly by a hand. Gu Yenhao's thin lips pursed into a line and his deep eyes became deeper and deeper. When she married him, he was only cold to her and forced her to have an abortion because the child would be deformed. In order to make her control her arrogant and willful personality, he used divorce to scare her. In order to make her reflect on her ignorance, he once hugged Song Jo-yue in front of her to spite her. Because of her willfulness, she didn't listen to him and got into a car accident. He purposely didn't visit her at the hospital. Other than that, he didn't do anything to let her down. Did she have to hate him so much and look at him with such eyes? Chapter 99. Gu Yenhao's deep eyes turned from deep to deep and gloomy. Regardless of whether Song Woo-yo knew how to shoot an arrow or not, the fact that she pointed the arrow at him and looked at him with such a gaze made him feel like a sinner. When his eyes met with Song Woo-yo's, he realized that the other party's gaze was increasingly desperate, sorrowful, and cold. His heart suddenly felt a long-lasting pain that he had been enduring for a long time. At this moment, all he saw in her eyes was hatred and there was no trace of love. Gu Yenhao furrowed his brows. Didn't she like him a lot? Why did she become like this after a car accident? Could it be that she really didn't have any feelings for him anymore? The moment he thought of her not liking him anymore, Gu Yenhao felt as if his heart had been ruthlessly stabbed by someone. This feeling was not good at all. Megu and Gu Yenhao stood side by side. He could clearly see Song Woo-yo's gaze. His sparkling peach blossom eyes and the smile at the corner of his mouth gradually faded away. He raised his eyebrows slightly and a look of surprise flashed past his eyes. Song Woo-yo's gaze made one's heart wrench fiercely. It was as if she had experienced countless hardships, or as if, in any case, this feeling was indescribable. Megu had interacted with many women. Their tears and sadness were not enough to shock him. Before him, Song Woo-yo's gaze had shocked his heart. What kind of woman was she? He suddenly wanted to find out and understand her. Song Woo-yo, put down the arrow. You will hurt young Master Gu like this. When Song Jiuyue saw Gu Yanhao's indifferent expression and his deep gaze looking at Song Wuyo, she felt a little anxious. Why didn't he stop Song Wuyo the last time and then give her a slap? Young Master Gu looked over. He was not at all afraid that the arrow would hit him. Song Wuyo curled her lips coldly and her voice was frighteningly cold. I not only want to hurt him, I also want to kill him. When Gu Yanhao heard this, he raised his eyebrows, his eyes unfathomable. Migu, Song Jiuyue, and Song Jumei were stunned. They couldn't believe their ears. What did they hear? Song Wuyo said that she wanted to kill Master Gu. Song Jumei was shocked. She pointed at Song Wuyo and asked, Are you an assassin? Song Wuyo's gaze grew colder. Her mind was completely immersed in her memories. The person standing in front of her was not Gu Yanhao, but that damned heartless man from her previous life. She steeled her heart, loosened her grip, and released the arrow. Ah! Song Jumei screamed in fright when she saw the arrow fly past her eyes like a cheetah and shoot towards Gu Yanhao. Master Gu. Song Jiuyue didn't expect Song Wuyo to really know how to shoot an arrow. She was shocked. She wanted to use her body to block the arrow for Gu Yanhao. However, the arrow was too fast. She only felt a flash in front of her eyes and a gust of wind blew past. She stood there in a daze, her terrified gaze following the arrow. Did she really shoot an arrow? Gu Yanhao and Migu only frowned. They looked at the arrow with sharp eyes, but their bodies didn't move at all. In the face of this arrow, the two of them didn't show a trace of panic. Their expressions were cold and calm. It was as if this arrow wasn't aimed at them, but at their enemy. Nervous. Seeing that the arrow was about to shoot towards Gu Yanhao, Song Jiuyue and Song Jumei's hearts were in their throats. Song Wuyo held the bow and slowly lowered her hand. She looked coldly at Gu Yanhao. Her hatred was obvious. Ah! Song Jumei screamed in fright again. Chapter 100. Ah! Song Jumei screamed in fear again. After the arrow got closer to Gu Yanhao, they could not see the direction of the arrow. It seemed like it was going to shoot at Gu Yanhao, but it also seemed like it was going to shoot at Migu. Song Jiuyue clenched her fists tightly. She was even more nervous than the person involved. Whoosh! Gu Yanhao and Migu felt a gust of wind blow past their ears, and the hair by their ears was lifted. That arrow did not hit anyone. Instead, it pierced through the middle of their ears, passed by them, and hit the swallow that was flying low behind them, preparing to hunt for food. It didn't hit. Song Jiuyue turned her head and looked at Song Wuyo in surprise. The moment Song Wuyo released the arrow, she came back to her senses. She lowered her head and sorted out her emotions. When she looked up again, she raised her chin slightly and pursed her lips. That expression was as if nothing had happened just now. She played with the bow in her hand and muttered, Why did I miss when I wanted to shoot a goat? When Song Jumei and Song Jiuyue heard this, they quickly looked behind Gu Yanhao. On the left behind him, there was a goat that had fallen out of the herd and was eating grass alone. Although it was behind Gu Yanhao and to the left, it was still far away from the swallow. Even someone who did not know how to shoot an arrow would not draw a bow like this. Song Wuyo, what's with that look? Song Jiuyue turned around abruptly and glared at Song Wuyo. She was really worried that Gu Yanhao would be injured, but she also hoped that Gu Yanhao would be slightly injured. She felt very conflicted. However, this was definitely not the outcome she wanted. Song Wuyo glanced at Gu Yanhao and saw that Gu Yanhao was looking at her deeply and sharply. She turned around with a hint of guilt in her eyes. Migu turned around and looked at the goat behind him. Then, he looked at Gu Yanhao and curled his lips. Which goat do you think she wants to shoot? Gu Yanhao said in a low voice, me. Gu Yanhao walked over. Song Jiuyue blinked and looked at him. Her beautiful eyes faintly flickered with infatuation for him. Gu Yanhao was tall and lanky. He looked even stronger in his riding outfit. Just his appearance alone was enough to make people drool and want to pounce on him. However, when he passed by her, he didn't even look at her. His gaze was fixed to Song Wuyo. The corners of his lips curled up into a beautiful arc. There was a charming smile at the corner of his mouth. I just left for a while and your archery skills have improved so quickly. The man's tone had a hint of teasing. Her archery skills did not seem like she had just learned it. Song Jiuyue and Song Jiumei did not know archery and could not see any flaws. However, Gu Yanhao had played with archery since he was young and had strong observation skills. Just now, Song Wuyo really wanted to shoot him. However, the moment she released the arrow, she slightly changed the direction of the arrow. He could see her proficiency and steadiness very clearly. If it were him, he would not dare to shoot like this. If there was a slight mistake, he, or Magoo, would be shot between the eyebrows. She wanted to shoot him, but at the last moment, she gave up on this idea and changed the direction of the arrow. If it were anyone else, they would have thrown away the bow in their hands if they did not want to shoot. However, she shot, especially the way she looked at him, it was filled with hatred. Gu Yanhao was puzzled. Even if he had neglected her before, she would not have hated him so much. Gu Yanhao stood beside Song Wuyo and looked at her deeply. Was she really his wife, Song Wuyo? Chapter 101. You don't know how easy it is to learn this type of archery. Song Wuyo put on an arrogant look. Gu Yanhao curled his lips and looked at her beautiful and fair little face with a burning gaze. She deliberately put on an arrogant look, but in Gu Yanhao's eyes, it was obvious that she was hiding something. Gu Yanhao did not expose her and said, if it's easy, why would it be so wrong? When Song Wuyo heard that, she glared at him in embarrassment. You just said that my archery skills have improved, and now you're saying that it's so wrong. What do you mean by that? Gu Yanhao turned his body slightly and pointed at the swallow that was killed by her arrow. Curling his lips, he said, the distance between the swallow and the sheep is so far. You wanted to shoot the sheep but you shot the swallow instead. I'm just laughing at you. Song Wuyo rolled her eyes at him coldly. What a boring man. Gu Yanhao was not angry. Instead, he smiled and looked at the target in front of her. Raising his brows, he asked, the competition hasn't started yet. Song Jiumei rushed up and said, it started and ended. My big sister won. When Gu Yanhao heard that, he looked at Song Jiuyue's target. There were 2 arrows stuck on it. Even though they did not hit the center, at least the arrows were on it. On the other hand, Song Wuyo's arrows were not on it. Magoo went up and said in surprise, Wuyo, you didn't hit a single arrow. Song Wuyo pursed her lips and said, I only missed 1 arrow. There are still 2 more. Gu Yanhao smiled. Then finish those 2 arrows. Song Wuyo raised her head and looked at him with clear eyes. Do you want me to win or lose? Gu Yanhao's dark eyes contained a faint smile. Of course I want you to win. When Song Wuyo heard that, her lips curled up. She casually looked at Song Jiuyue. Song Jiuyue was looking at Gu Yanhao in disbelief and heartache. Gu Yanhao smiled. Gu Yanhao actually smiled at Song Wuyo. Not only was he smiling, but even his eyes were smiling when he looked at Song Wuyo. This was something she had always dreamed of. Even in her dreams, she dreamed of this cold-looking man smiling at her. However, in reality, he had never smiled at her. Now that she saw him smile at Song Woo, it was as if her heart was being sliced with a knife. Looking at Song Woo's expression, Song Woo's lips curled. Single to abuse to torture of Steelator, there was something even more. Song Woo's eyes suddenly narrowed. He reached out and quickly pulled out an arrow from the quiver. She avs. His movements were smooth, and he looked valiant. She released the arrow. The arrow flew out steadily. It was fast, accurate, and ruthless. Pow! The arrowhead landed heavily on the target. Due to the impact, the target shook violently for a few seconds before coming to a stop. Everyone looked at the arrow and was stunned. Not only did the arrow hit the target, but it also hit the red dot in the center. Half of the arrow was embedded in the target. From this, it could be seen that the arrow was more powerful than Gu Yanhao's. When Magoo saw this, he blinked his beautiful peach blossom eyes and looked at Song Woo in disbelief. Gu Yanhao frowned and smiled unexpectedly. Not bad. Song Woo smiled proudly and turned to look at Song Woo, who was stunned. I won this round. Song Woo opened her mouth slightly and looked at Song Woo in shock. What was going on? Did she look like she had just learned how to load the arrow and draw the bow? And she was so accurate, even better than Gu Yanhao. Song Woo was in a bad mood. She had lost. She had lost this round, and she had lost to Song Woo. Chapter 102. You've only won one round. There's still one more round. Song Woo walked out of her shock and reminded her bitterly. Song Woo smiled. There's still one more round. I can still win. With that, she repeated her previous actions. She quickly knocked an arrow and pulled the bowstring. This time, her speed was even faster than the previous one. This was because once the arrow was knocked, she released the arrow. There was no need to aim at all. In fact, when she retracted her gaze from Song Woo, the arrow had already been released. In the end, it was better than expected. The arrow that was released later went through the arrow in front and stabbed into the target ruthlessly. The arrow in front naturally became the scapegoat. The arrow broke into pieces and fell to the ground. Gu Yanhao took a look and suddenly narrowed his eyes. Suddenly, he retracted his gaze and looked at Song Woo's smug face. Her archery. How could it be so good? Suddenly, he remembered what she said to Su Jing when she was cooking the beggar's chicken. She said that she had fought in a war before. Gu Yanhao's deep and sharp eyes looked at Song Woo as if he wanted to see through everything. Who exactly was she? Tisk. Magoo was stunned for a moment. When he came back to his senses, he immediately applauded and cheered. Woo, you've hidden your skills well. Magoo sincerely praised Song Woo. Your archery skills are comparable to mine and Aho's. Song Woo put down the bow and snorted coldly. She raised her lips a little proudly. Of course, when she learned archery, they were still wearing open-crotch pants. Song Woo glanced at Gu Yanhao proudly. She saw him squinting his eyes and looking at her unfathomably. She pursed her lips and chose to ignore him. Instead, she looked at Song Woo. Elder sister, I won. Song Woo looked at Song Woo in disbelief. She was stunned by the arrow behind Song Woo. Even young Master Gu couldn't shoot at such a standard, but she did it. Her face turned even paler because she had completely lost the game. She looked at Gu Yanhao for help, hoping that he could help her win against Song Woo. Unexpectedly, Gu Yanhao did not even look at her. His gaze was fixed on Song Woo. Gu Yanhao's coldness towards her made Song Woo's heart ache. I haven't shot yet. Song Wuyo stepped forward and glared at Song Wuyo. You only won against Big Sister. You haven't won against me. Even Song Juyue can't beat Wuyo. Forget it. Gu Yanhao coldly glanced at Song Jiumei. When Song Jiumei heard this, her face turned pale. Gu Yanhao rarely spoke to her. She didn't expect him to say such words to hurt her. Young Master Gu. Song Jiumei suddenly looked aggrieved and looked at Gu Yanhao. Whoever loses will run in circles. Gu Yanhao looked at Song Juyue and said coldly. Song Juyue's back stiffened. Song Wuyo curled her lips and smiled proudly. She knew that the prouder she smiled, the worse Song Juyue felt. Running in circles doesn't count. Just now, you said that the loser has to listen to the winner, Song Wuyo said. You have something to tell her. Gu Yanhao looked at Song Wuyo with a half-smile. I want her to run naked, Song Wuyo said directly. When Song Juyue heard this, her face turned pale. That's not good, right? Magoo interrupted and looked at Song Wuyo strangely. I can run naked. Juyue can forget about it, right? Song Wuyo looked unhappy. Just now, they all said that if I lose, I have to run naked. Song Juyue looked at Gu Yanhao quietly. She hoped that he could say something for her. Chapter 103. Gu Yanhao glanced at her coldly and said, You don't have to run naked. When Song Juyue heard this, a trace of joy appeared on her face. She knew that Gu Yanhao treated her quite well. But the words that followed made her feel as if she had just reached heaven. Before she could enjoy the feeling of being high above, she was pushed back to hell. After you strip naked, run with the curtains. It's ugly to run naked. Gu Yanhao's indifferent voice sounded again. Magoo would always use a scarf to cover his lower body. Song Jiuping was a woman, so the curtains could cover her entire body. Young Master Gu. Song Juyue heard this and looked at Gu Yanhao with grievance. He actually asked her to run with the curtains. The curtains are not bad. My curtains are thick and beautiful. I even washed them yesterday. They're clean. Magoo laughed. Song Juyue felt as if she had been thrown into a prison. Her heart ached. Gu Yanhao did not help her and even suggested that she run with the curtains. Just thinking about the drawing made her feel embarrassed. What made her even angrier was that Magoo also spoke up for her. If Gu Yanhao was not here, Song Juyue really wanted to slap Song Wuyo. Of course, Song Wuyo could see the hatred in Song Juyue's heart. She looked at Song Juyue and said innocently, Run. You have to listen to me. Take off your clothes and run. Song Wuyo, don't go overboard. Song Wuyo glared at Song Jiumei. If you agree to a bet, you must accept defeat. Song Wuyo laughed and said, If I lose, I will also listen to you. Song Wuyo stood in front of the stable and looked at the two people running in the archery area with interest. Gu Yanhao came over with 2 bottles of water and stood beside her. He handed her a bottle of water. Seeing her smile happily, he asked, Do you like to tease them? Song Wuyo was not thirsty. She did not take the water that Gu Yanhao offered. She just glanced at him and continued to look ahead. Do you blame me? Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows. Why would I blame you? Song Wuyo glanced at him again. Her eyes sparkled. She smiled and stopped looking at him. Seeing her smile, Gu Yanhao's gaze deepened and his throat tightened. When did you learn archery? He looked at her deeply. Song Wuyo said casually, A long time ago. Gu Yanhao's eyes were deep. A long time ago. When was that? Ha! Song Wuyo suddenly laughed out loud. Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows and followed her gaze. He saw that the curtain that Song Jiuyue had draped over her body had fallen. She hurriedly picked it up. Magoo was topless as he ran in front of Song Jiuyue. Sensing that Song Jiuyue had fallen behind, he stopped and turned back to look at her. He happened to see her bending over to pick up the curtain that had fallen over her body. Magoo couldn't help but laugh. "Are you tired from running? Go ahead." Song Jiuyue glared at Magoo angrily. She was so embarrassed that she flew into a rage. This damned man was the one who had come up with this bad idea. Why did he have to take off his clothes if he wanted to run? Isn't it exciting? Not only did Magoo not run by himself, but he also ran side by side with Song Jiuyue. "It's exciting," Song Jiuyue scolded. Oh, the usually gentle and dignified Jiuyue can get angry too. "Are you angry that you're asked to run naked?" "I'm not angry. Look at my smile." Magoo even deliberately put on a handsome smile and stretched out his arm. "Look at my muscles. Aren't they strong? Go away." Song Jiuyue was in a bad mood. She stopped and glared at Magoo. Chapter 104. Magoo saw her angry face and wanted to tease her even more. He stood in front of her with his arms akimbo and teased, "Am I not good-looking?" Song Jiuyue blushed and stared at Magoo. "You pervert." She stomped her feet and said, "You run away first." She wanted to put some distance between them. Seeing her blushing face, Magoo could not help but reach out to touch her face. Song Jiuyue saw this and thought Magoo was going to molest her. She was shocked and slapped Magoo's hand away. Song Jiuyue's hands that were holding the curtains loosened, and the curtains fell from her body. A gust of wind blew, and Song Jiuyue felt cold. Song Jiuyue shivered. Song Jiuyue looked down and saw that she was naked. Although she was wearing her underwear, Song Jiuyue still felt embarrassed. "Ah!" Song Jiuyue screamed and quickly bent down to cover herself with the curtains. Magoo blinked his peach blossom eyes and looked at Song Jiuyue. He wanted to laugh, but he was too embarrassed to laugh. After all, Song Jiuyue was a girl, and she needed to save face. "Magoo, I hate you." Song Jiuyue covered herself with the curtains and stared at Magoo angrily. Magoo said casually, "I did not see your body." Song Jiuyue was not really naked. She was still wearing her underwear. What was there to be embarrassed about? It would have been better if Magoo did not say anything. Song Jiuyue was so angry that her eyes turned red. Song Jiuyue clutched the curtains tightly and stared at Magoo with her red eyes. She felt wronged and angry. Song Jiuyue had always been arrogant. Today, she had to run naked with Magoo, and this was the biggest humiliation in her life. Song Jiuyue was angry at Magoo for coming up with such an embarrassing idea. She hated Song Wuyo. Magoo saw that she was so angry that her eyes were red and she was about to cry. He didn't dare to tease her anymore. All right, I'll run first." After Magoo finished running, Song Jiuyue stood there, her hands tightly clutching the fabric. She bit her lower lip in grievance, and her beautiful face was a little twisted. "It's all because of that bitch Song Wuyo. He obviously knew how to shoot arrows, but he pretended that he did not know how to shoot. Because of this, she had to run around naked." Song Jiuyue gnashed her teeth in hatred. "Song Wuyo, you bastard." She looked around for a while. Song Jiuyue was furious when she saw her and Gu Yanhao standing in the stable and looking at her. From afar, she saw her talking and laughing with Gu Yanhao and was extremely jealous. Why wasn't Song Wuyo the one running laps here? Why wasn't she the one standing beside Gu Yanhao smiling? Song Jiuyue stomped her feet in anger and continued running. Song Jiumei stood there and looked at her. Song Jiuyue looked as funny as she could with the curtain draped over her. Song Jiumei couldn't help but take a picture with her phone. Big sister, you can do it. 5 more laps. When Song Jiuyue ran over, Song Jiumei was still cheering her on. Song Jiuyue was already very angry, and when Song Jiumei cheered her on, she became even angrier. When she passed by Song Jiumei, Song Jiuyue glared at her. When Song Jiumei met her gaze, her cheering stopped abruptly, and her smile froze. She looked at Song Jiuyue's back in confusion. Did she do something wrong? Song Wuyo, who taught you how to shoot arrows? Gu Yanhao narrowed his eyes and looked at Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo was very interested in watching Migu and Song Jiuyue run around naked, but he was not interested at all. Instead of watching Migu and the rest, he might as well get to know this woman. When Song Wuyo heard this, her excited eyes suddenly darkened. She lowered her head to hide the sadness that quickly flashed across her face. Alone, she said calmly. Chapter 105. Who is this person? Gu Yanhao really wanted to know. Song Wuyo raised her head and looked at him coldly. Why should I tell you? Again. The way she looked at him was so cold again. Do you really hate me that much? Gu Yanhao's chest tightened as he looked at her directly in the eye. Song Wuyo sneered. I don't hate you. The person she hated was not Gu Yanhao, but that heartless man from her previous life. The way you look at me is full of hatred. What could he do? Who asked him to look so much like that heartless man? Song Wuyo's cold attitude towards him made his heart sink a little. He stretched out his arm and wrapped it around her shoulders, pulling her into his embrace. Song Wuyo was shocked as she raised her head and stared at him. Gu Yanhao, what are you doing? Gu Yanhao's lips curled into a charming smile. Let's go horseback riding. I'm not going to ride with you. Song Wuyo struggled for a while, thought for a while and changed her words. I don't know how to ride. Gu Yanhao, I'll teach you. I don't want you to teach me. When you know how to ride, you'll realize that riding is actually more fun. I'm not going to ride with you. What fun would it be to ride with him? Gu Yanhao tilted his head and looked at her with a faint smile. Song Wuyo, you used to pester me all the time. Now that there's a chance for you to pester me, aren't you going to pester me? Song Wuyo struggled to get out of his embrace and was a little angry. That was in the past. The Song Wuyo of the past was already dead. The current Song Wuyo did not love him. If not for the fact that the original owner still had love for him, she would not have bothered to talk to him. Gu Yanhao saw the disgust in her eyes and his gaze darkened. You really hate me that much? Song Wuyo raised her head and looked at him with a sneer. I don't hate you. I just want you to know how bad it feels to be ignored by the person you love. Gu Yanhao stared at her. So, are you taking revenge? Song Wuyo smiled. Actually, this is quite fun. Gu Yanhao stared at her for a long time before he said, You're not Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo was shocked. She looked at Gu Yanhao indifferently. I'm not Song Wuyo. Who am I not? Gu Yanhao snorted. Don't treat me like a fool. I will definitely find out who you are. Go ahead. Song Wuyo shrugged indifferently. If he could find out the truth, he would be too capable. I'm dying of the sun. Song Wuyo raised her head and narrowed her eyes. After looking at the sky, she lifted her feet and left the place. Gu Yanhao turned around. His deep eyes looked at her back view sharply. Other than her face that was similar to Song Wuyo, everything else about her had changed. Even the way he walked had become so different. How could he not know what Song Wuyo was capable of in the past? The Song Wuyo of the past did not know how to design, let alone make clothes. The Song Wuyo of the past did not know how to shoot an arrow, nor did she know how to cook, let alone make beggar's chicken. The Song Wuyo of the past did not have any temperament. The current Song Wuyo of the past had an elegant temperament and did not panic in the face of trouble. The Song Wuyo of the past had him as the center. The current Song Wuyo of the past looked at him with hatred from time to time. Gu Yanhao was sure of one thing. She was not Song Wuyo. Gu Yanhao thought for a while and still dialed Aude's number. Help me check the video of Song Wuyo's car accident and who was in the ward when she was hospitalized. After Song Joyue finished her run, she put on her riding attire and went to the stable angrily. Chapter 106. Song Wuyo was determined not to ride on the same horse as Gu Yanhao. Gu Yanhao didn't force her. He rode ahead and wandered around. He was in a bad mood after being rejected by Song Wuyo. He rode ahead around, hoping that he would feel better. Song Wuyo chose a white horse. When Song Joyue arrived, she was already riding on the horse. She did not gallop. She just sat on the horse's back and let it walk slowly. In Song Joyue's eyes, she had just started learning how to ride a horse. Song Wuyo knew how to ride a horse in her previous life, but this body was not hers. The original owner was an idiot. Other than knowing how to drive, she did not know anything else. She was lazy and did not like to exercise. Her physique was so bad that even Song Wuyo despised her. Using this body to ride a horse, her thoughts were good, but her movements were not. She did not dare to gallop. It was better to let this body get used to it first. Song Joyue saw that her movements were not very smooth and walked over. Song Wuyo, you don't know how to ride. Song Joyue stood in front of the horse and looked up at Song Wuyo with a smile. Song Wuyo pursed her lips. She could not be bothered with her. Why, are you disappointed that young Master Gu did not bring you for a ride? I think you are the one who is disappointed. Song Wuyo glanced at her disdainfully. Song Joyue sneered. What is there to be disappointed about? I am so proud of myself right now. She leaned closer and deliberately plucked the horse's tail. Song Wuyo could have slapped the horse and left, but she happened to see a black horse galloping towards them. A sly look flashed across her eyes. She smiled lightly and did not avoid Song Joyue. With Song Joyue's plucking, the originally docile horse suddenly went out of control. It raised its head and let out a hiss roar. Then, it dashed madly. Aw! Song Wuyo's body suddenly swayed from side to side. Her screams made the horse, which was already out of control, even crazier. The horse galloped wildly, like a nonsensical fly, running everywhere. Song Wuyo was so frightened that she grabbed the reins of the horse tightly. Her body was thrown up high, and then she fell back onto the horse's back. Her body tilted again and fell to the side. Song Joyue stood there and looked at the horse as if it had gone mad. Her eyes and mouth were full of cold laughter, and she was thinking insidiously that it would be best if she fell to her death. It should be Song Wuyo's scream that made the out-of-control horse even crazier. The horse ran around like crazy, and Song Wuyo's body was thrown back and forth on the horse. Gu Yanhao, who was strolling back, heard the commotion and looked over. When he saw Song Wuyo's body being thrown back and forth on the horse's back, he saw that she was about to fall off the horse. His eyes darkened, and he quickly urged his horse to gallop over. Song Wuyo's horse was running very crazily. When it saw Gu Yanhao's horse galloping over, it turned around and changed its direction, resulting in Gu Yanhao chasing after Song Wuyo. Its running speed was very fast. Originally, it had already pulled away from Gu Yanhao. Now that it sped up, it was even harder for Gu Yanhao to catch up. He watched Song Wuyo's petite body being thrown up and down. If she didn't hold on to the reins tightly, she would have been thrown out. Seeing such a dangerous scene, Gu Yanhao's heart was about to jump out of his body. Giddy giddy, he kept urging the horse. He couldn't wait to fly over and hug the frightened little woman. Song Wuyo knew that Gu Yanhao was chasing after her. She wanted to try to stop the horse. But with a flash of inspiration, she simply let go of the reins tightly. In an instant, her whole body was thrown out. Seeing her body forming a strange parabola in the air, Gu Yanhao's face changed and his eyes turned red. Chapter 107. His screams echoed throughout the grassland. Magoo, who had rushed over, was so shocked that he forgot to think when he saw this scene. Song Wuyo's body was thrown up high and then fell. That parabola was very beautiful and strange. Song Wuyo wanted to control the force of the fall. After all, she was a martial artist in her previous life. She had good control of her qigong. But, why? Why couldn't she control this body? Her whole body fell heavily on the ground before Gu Yanhao could catch up. Although the ranch was full of grassland, she was very unlucky to hit a sculpture. It was a sculpture of a fish leaping over the dragon gate. It was made of steel and painted with color. It was lifelike. Song Wuyo's body fell on the sculpture and then rolled down. She even rolled a few times on the grassland. Song Wuyo felt that she was going to die after this torment. She was really going to die. She wanted to let go of her hand and fall from the horse so that Gu Yanhao could blame Song Zhuoyue. But, was she asking for trouble now? Her body was in so much pain that she felt a sweetness in her chest. A mouthful of blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. She was in so much pain that she almost fainted. Her vision became blurry. As Song Wuyo lay there, the sound of galloping horses could be heard. She turned her head weakly and looked at the horse's hooves. Gu Yanhao was riding a horse and rushing towards her. She seemed to see nervousness and panic on his handsome face. There was still some distance between them, but the horse hadn't stopped yet. He jumped down from the horse's back and strode over. Song Wuyo, he called her name anxiously as he rushed over. The worry and panic on his face were not fake. Seeing this, Song Wuyo's heart clenched. In her blurry vision, she seemed to see him wearing armor and rushing over with a long sword in his hand. The background became a battlefield of dust and sand. He was wearing armor and fighting with the enemy in a cool and handsome manner. The muscles on his face were twisted, his armor was stained with blood, and his eyes were bloodthirsty. One sword, one life. Anyone who got close to him would die in his hands. He was like the god of slaughter, a god of slaughter high up in the air, Song Wuyo. When he saw Song Wuyo hit the statue and roll down, Gu Yanhao's heart ached so much that he stopped breathing. He rushed up and embraced her, holding her tightly in his arms. "Don't be afraid." The moment he hugged her, he could clearly feel her body trembling. The blood that was stuck in his throat was hugged by him. With a twist of his neck, he spat out a mouthful of black blood. It flowed down her chin and dyed her clothes red. Seeing this scene, Gu Yanhao was scared to death. "I'll take you to the hospital." Gu Yanhao was about to carry Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo tried her best not to faint. Her blurry vision stared straight at Gu Yanhao. After clearly feeling his breath, Song Wuyo grabbed his arm tightly. Her muddy mind was thinking about her previous life. "Dongfang Xian, please, don't kill my entire family. her younger brother had just gotten married, and her parents were very old. How could Dongfang Xian be so ruthless to kill them all? Did he forget that when he was young, he often went to her house to eat and play? Did her parents love him as if he was their biological son? When Gu Yanhao heard this, his heart clenched tightly. He lowered his head and looked at the woman who had fainted in his arms. Dongfang Xian. Who was Dongfang Xian? Song Wuyo, wake up. Gu Yanhao patted Song Wuyo's face. Unfortunately, Song Wuyo had already fainted. Gu Yanhao picked her up, only to find that Migu was standing in front of them. Migu's hands, which were hanging by his side, were tightly clenched into fists. His gaze fell straight on Song Wuyo's face. His originally frivolous peach blossom eyes were now tumbling with stormy waves. Seeing that he was standing there motionless like a god, Gu Yanhao looked at him coldly. Then, carrying Song Wuyo, he strode toward Ah He. Gu Yanhao put Song Wuyo on the horse's back. He supported her with one hand and grabbed the horse's rope with the other. Then, with a handsome leap, he sat on the horse's back and rode away. Mu Gu stood there with a ramrod-straight posture. His peach blossom eyes, which had been surging with stormy waves, gradually calmed down. He narrowed his eyes as he looked at the horse in the distance. Dongfang Xian. Chapter 108. Song Jiuyue and Song Jiumei rushed over. Song Jiuyue asked Migu with a bad expression, "Migu, how is Wuyo? Is she seriously injured?" When Migu heard Song Jiuyue's voice, he turned his head abruptly and looked at her coldly with his sharp eyes. Caught off guard by Migu's cold and vicious gaze, Song Jiuyue's heart thumped. Her gaze was a little evasive. Suddenly, her gaze landed on the blood on the grass not far away. That was where Song Wuyo had been lying earlier. Song Jiuyue frowned slightly and thought to herself, could it be that Song Wuyo really fell to her death this time? If that's really the case, that would be great. Big sister, there's so much blood. Song Jiumei also noticed the blood on the ground. She pointed at it and exclaimed to Song Jiuyue. Song Jiuyue was unhappy and secretly gritted her teeth. This Song Jiumei was always so flustered when something happened. So annoying. Song Jiumei looked at the blood in confusion and thought, it's just a fall from a horse, and it's a grassland. She shouldn't be seriously injured. Why is there blood on the ground? Song Jiumei thought of the time when she drugged Song Wuyo. She was suddenly shocked and grabbed Song Jiuyue's arm. She said in surprise, "Big sister, Song Wuyo she didn't have a miscarriage, did she?" When Migu heard this, his eyes suddenly darkened and became extremely cold. Song Jiuyue's back trembled as she looked at Song Jiumei in a daze. Miscarriage? In the hospital's VIP ward. Gu Yanhao sat in front of the bed, guarding Song Wuyo, who had yet to wake up. The woman lying on the hospital bed was pale and bloodless, but she had a sickly beauty. She was like a porcelain doll, making one's heart ache. Gu Yanhao pursed his lips tightly, exuding a cold and noble aura. His indifferent eyes were sharp and deep as they locked onto her face. Dongfang Xian. Dongfang Xian, who was the bastard that caused her to faint? Why did his heart hurt so badly when he heard her words? It was as if he was that bastard, Dongfang Xian. At this moment, Ade walked in. He was holding a stack of documents in his hand. He stood behind Gu Yanhao and respectfully said, "Young master. Speak." Gu Yanhao's voice was as cold as ice. Ade handed over the information. Gu Yanhao took it but did not look at it. He wanted to hear what Ade had to say. "I've checked all the people with the surname Dongfang in M City. There's no one called Dongfang Xian. There are very few people with the surname Dongfang. Not only is there no one called Dongfang Xian, but no one with the surname Dongfang knows young madam. They're all small families and commoners. They don't have much power. It was even more impossible for them to do something like exterminating their entire family. Gu Yanhao asked, "Is there a declining Dongfang family? Just like the Mu family?" Ade shook his head and said, "No." Gu Yanhao's gaze was clear. "What else?" Ade said, "I also found out that young madam's biological mother is not the dancer, Yang Xiaolan. When Yang Xiaolan was alive, she had a very good relationship with Madame Ji. When Madame Ji married General Qing, she had an inexplicable relationship with the former president." When Gu Yanhao heard this, he raised his head and looked at Ade with a sharp gaze. "You mean, Song Wuyo is the daughter of Madame Ji and the former president?" "I'm just guessing. Think of a way to get their DNA." Chapter 109. Find a way to get their DNA, Gu Yanhao said coldly. There was nothing more convincing than a DNA test to prove the relationship of blood. Ade nodded. "Yes." Gu Yanhao handed the information back to Ade. "Take it to my villa. Catch Dongfang Xian as soon as possible." "Yes." After Ade left, Gu Yanhao reached out and gently stroked Song Wuyo's pale little face. "You know that you're not Song Nan's daughter?" he asked in a low voice. So, before she fainted, she begged Dongfang Xian not to kill her family. Although Gu Yanhao was in business, he still knew about politics. In order to be able to sit in the president's seat, the current president stepped on the heads of many people. The former president was assassinated, his eldest son was electrocuted in the army, and his youngest son was mentally unstable. And his second son was kidnapped when he was very young. His whereabouts were still unknown. Whether he was alive or dead was still a mystery. In any case, the current president's glory was the same as the former president's tragic end. Gu Yanhao's heart felt faintly uneasy. If Song Wuyo was really the child of the former president and Mrs. Ji heir, then her situation would be very dangerous. Mrs. Ji heir's husband was the current president's eldest brother, Aho. Magoo had been in the ward for a while. When he saw Gu Yanhao staring at Song Wuyo in a daze, he did not disturb him. But so much time had passed. Magoo could not help but try to call Gu Yanhao back to reality. Hearing Magoo's voice, Gu Yanhao raised his head and looked over coldly. Magoo, who was standing opposite him, smiled uncomfortably when he met such a gaze. "Don't look at me like you want to kill me. Don't you deserve to be killed?" Gu Yanhao said coldly. "How do I deserve to be killed? I didn't hurt your wife." Magoo said very innocently. "It's your horse that did it." Magoo was a little reluctant. "Then you can go and kill my horse." Gu Yanhao pursed his lips coldly. Magoo glanced at Song Wuyo and whispered, "What did the doctor say?" "The injuries aren't serious. It was just that she was injured again not long after the car accident. Her body was weak to begin with, so even if her injury was not serious, it almost took her life." When Magoo heard this, he was finally relieved. He pulled out a chair and sat down, looking at Song Wuyo with a complicated expression. Gu Yanhao noticed that his gaze was fixed on his wife's face. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Magoo unhappily. "What are you doing here?" Magoo answered naturally, looking at Wuyo. "Now that you're done, can you go back?" Magoo raised his head and looked at Gu Yanhao in surprise. "Ah ho, I just arrived and you're already chasing me away. You're so heartless. You're sitting in front of the bed and staring at my wife. How can I not be heartless?" Gu Yanhao said coldly. Magoo was stunned and blinked his beautiful peach blossom eyes. Really? Was he glaring at his wife? Magoo looked at Gu Yanhao. Ah ho, have you fallen deeply in love with Wuyo? Gu Yanhao looked at Migu coldly as if he was looking at an idiot. How can a woman I don't love be my wife? No, didn't you want to divorce her before? Gu Yanhao narrowed his eyes dangerously and stared at Migu. You want us to divorce? Migu scratched his head and smiled unnaturally. No, Song Juyue and Song Jume, who were standing at the door, looked at each other. Young Master Gu said that a woman he did not love could not be his wife. Chapter 110. Did that mean that he loved Song Wuyo? From the time he met Song Wuyo to the time he married her, it was all because of love. Song Juyue's face turned slightly pale. Wasn't she the person he liked? After she graduated from university, she had said that she wanted to work in the Gu clan and he had agreed easily. Song Wuyo had also said that she wanted to work in the Gu clan, but he had rejected her. When she had helped the Gu clan win the first place in the fashion competition, he would treat her to a meal alone. Song Wuyo had been married to him for 3 years, but he had never brought Song Wuyo to any banquets. She had thought that he did not love Song Wuyo. She had thought that it was old Master Gu's arrangement that he had married Song Wuyo. Now that she thought about it, with Gu Yanhao's character, if he did not love a woman, even God would not let him marry a woman he hated, let alone old Master Gu. Song Juyue gritted her teeth. At this moment, she really hoped that Song Wuyo would not wake up again. She was better than Song Wuyo in every aspect. Why would young Master Gu like Song Wuyo and not like her? It must be because he had slept with Song Wuyo, so he wanted to take responsibility. They had known each other since they were young, so she knew Gu Yanhao's character very well. He was a clean freak and had self-respect, so he would not have sex with women easily. Song Wuyo was his first woman, so he definitely wanted to take responsibility. If he had tried another woman, he would not be so obsessed with Song Wuyo's body. At this thought, Song Juyue glared at Song Jume fiercely. She gritted her teeth and scolded in a low voice, "It's all your fault." After scolding her, Song Juyue turned around and strode away. Song Jume stood there in confusion. What's wrong? Why is it all my fault? Song Wuyo falling off the horse had nothing to do with me. Suddenly being misunderstood and wronged, Song Jume, who had always been proud, felt extremely wronged. She chased after Song Juyue, wanting to explain. Song Wuyo's injury really had nothing to do with her. Big sis, you can't wrong her. If young Master Gu misunderstood, she would lose her life. Migu looked at Song Wuyo's pale face and felt a little distressed. But in the face of Gu Yanhao's murderous gaze, he didn't dare to show it. He got up and said to Gu Yanhao, "I'll go back and prepare some nutritious ingredients. When Wuyo wakes up, I'll boil some soup for her. Hurry up and get lost." Gu Yanhao was very annoyed now. Migu gave him a deep look before leaving. Gu Yanhao had been guarding Song Wuyo the whole time. He didn't eat or drink. He had never been so nervous about a woman. For the first time in his life, he cried because of a woman's departure. That was when his mother passed away. When he saw her being thrown off the horse, his heart felt as if it was being grabbed tightly by a hand and was about to be crushed. It hurt, and he couldn't breathe. This feeling was just like when he received the notice that his parents had an accident on their flight. It was very uncomfortable and filled with fear. Gu Yanhao held Song Wuyo's hand, looked at her, and said in a low voice, "Song Wuyo, do you know why I married you? Do you really think that glass of wine can make me marry you? I know that after my parents passed away, I locked myself in my room for 3 days, and you sat at the door of my room and guarded me for 3 days." Gu Yanhao laughed bitterly. "That time, my fever didn't go down. You heard that drinking water with old lotus roots can reduce the fever. You didn't hesitate to jump into the lotus root pool to pull out the lotus roots because you couldn't swim. Chapter 111. Other than my mother, no other woman cares for me as much as you do. Those women who want to be in my good graces care about my appearance and my power. If I don't have the identity of young Master Gu, will they still look at me? Moreover, you've seen me in my most miserable state. You've seen me cry. If I don't marry you, who else should I marry? But you started to be willful and unruly. You didn't listen to what I said and even damaged a few of my beloved cars. Speaking of this, Gu Yanhao's tone was full of affection. Compared to her, those luxury cars that cost tens of millions were nothing. Gu Yanhao's warm palm touched Song Wuyo's forehead gently. The tenderness in his eyes was as sweet as candy. Unfortunately, Wuyo did not see it. Gu Yanhao smiled elegantly and helplessly. Forget it, you can do whatever you want. I'll tolerate you. She could be willful, arrogant, selfish, or ignorant. She was the woman who had always loved him deeply. The wind blew and the sand blew as the horses galloped. The sky was covered with dark clouds. In the sky, the wind was as strong as lightning, and the clouds in the sky were rolling. The ground was filled with the smell of blood and murderous intent. The sound of swords clashing and people screaming could be heard. This was a very intense and tragic battle. Both sides of the enemy killed each other in order to win. Dongfang Xian held his favorite weapon, the crescent blade, and started the massacre. He rose into the air and slashed at the enemy, one by one. The blade rose and fell, and a life was ended just like that. His sharp eyes were as bloodthirsty as a leopard. His body spun in mid-air as if heaven and earth were spinning with him. He was good at fighting and killing. Any enemy who came close to him must die. From afar, an arrow flew towards him. Bang! The arrow accurately hit Dongfang Xian's heart from behind. Dongfang Xian felt pain. His body, which was in mid-air, fell down suddenly. The enemy took the opportunity to surround him, and a few spears pierced into his body. Fresh blood gushed out of his mouth. By the time Song Wuyo arrived, the battle had stopped and the enemy troops had retreated. The ground was littered with corpses. Dongfang Xian knelt there, his body hanging low. His body was covered with all kinds of weapons, sabers, swords, spears. When she saw that even his head was lowered, Song Wuyo's face turned pale and she stumbled over. No! She did not want him to die. She ran too fast and her heart ached too much. She slipped and fell. When she looked up again, everything in front of her had changed. Her Dongfang Xian was gone, and so were the corpses that littered the ground. In front of him was a boundless sandstorm. It was white and hazy, white and hazy. He couldn't tell north from south, east from west, and couldn't see the scene 10 meters away. Song Wuyo got up and looked around. What about Dongfang Xian? Where's Dongfang Xian? She searched aimlessly in all directions, looking for him. She looked around without any direction or destination. Where did Dongfang Xian go? What kind of place was she in? Song Wuyo was terrified. The world was spinning. She was so scared that her mind went blank. Her vision turned black, and her body swayed. She closed her eyes and calmed herself down. When she opened her eyes again, the scene in front of her had changed again. It was not the battlefield with the sandstorm, but the cold palace. Her cold palace. Thank you, Pillowy, for the 99 yuan tip. Thank you, everyone, for your support. I'll update at 9 p.m. Chapter 112. Song Wuyo was very surprised. Wasn't she on the battlefield? Why did she suddenly return to the cold palace? The emperor has arrived. The empress has arrived. Suddenly, eunuch Gao's voice came from outside. Song Wuyo was shocked. Dongfang Xian. Before Song Wuyo could recover from her shock, the shabby door was pushed open with a creak. Suddenly, two gorgeous figures appeared. Dongfang Xian was dressed in a yellow brocade robe with dragon patterns and black phoenix boots. His thick eyebrows were like swords, and his eyes were like an eagle's. His sharp red phoenix eyes exuded the aura of a monarch. He was domineering and extremely cold. Following him was the empress. The empress was dressed in a noble black brocade robe, graceful and luxurious. Dong, Song Wuyo had just said one word when the empress suddenly came forward and slapped her. She said sternly, "How dare you? How dare you call the emperor's name directly?" The slap made Song Wuyo's face burn with pain. She covered her face and glared at the empress coldly. Then, she looked at Dongfang Xian. Why? Why are you doing this to me? She suppressed her hysterical roar and glared at Dongfang Xian fiercely. What did I do wrong? You want to kill my 9 generations and give me the white silk. Dongfang Xian looked at her coldly. You did nothing wrong. If I didn't do anything wrong, why are you doing this to me? Your death is more valuable than your life. The man's thin lips opened slightly and spat out cold and ruthless words. The empress looked at her arrogantly, and there was a smug sneer at the corner of her mouth. When Song Wuyo heard this, her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. 2 lines of tears kept flowing down. Her death was more valuable than her life. If she was dead, what was her value? Song Wuyo's heart was as still as water. He didn't love her anymore. He was now sitting in a harem of 3,000 beauties. He had forgotten how she had accompanied him all the way for the past 8 years. She turned away from them, tears streaming down her cheeks. Dongfang Xian coldly stared at her frail back, his hands tightly clenched into fists under his dragon sleeves. Is it very painful? Gu Yanhao frowned when he saw the tears flowing out of the corners of Song Wuyo's eyes. He used his finger to gently wipe away the tears at the corners of Song Wuyo's eyes. His pitch-black phoenix eyes became incomparably deep. He looked at her. His eyes were like stars, filled with tenderness and love. How could it not hurt when he was thrown from the horse's back and smashed into the sculpture? Fortunately, there were no fractures and there was no need for surgery. Otherwise, it would be even more painful. Gu Yanhao wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, but they flowed again after a while. He didn't know how much heartache he felt. He thought of her last car accident. She had even lost her child. Her injuries were even more serious. Was she crying in a coma? Right now, he was a little regretful. He regretted not being by her side when she was injured. The bedside lamp in the bedroom suddenly turned on. Magoo suddenly sat up on the bed. His breathing was a little hurried, and he panted softly. His peach blossom eyes, which had always been gentle, were now filled with an uneasy light. He had that dream again. He often had this kind of dream. In the past, he didn't think much of it. He even thought that he had read too many fantasy novels. However, when he heard what Song Wuyo said before she fainted, he didn't think that it was a normal dream. At this time, Magoo's heart was tumbling like stormy waves. His eyes became incomparably deep, like a 1,000-year-old ancient pool, bottomless. Magoo looked out of the window. Oh, it's already morning. He got out of bed and walked out of the bedroom barefoot. He was about to go downstairs to make breakfast. Sister, are we going to the hospital to see that bitch today? Before he walked into the kitchen, he heard Song Jumei's angry voice. Chapter 113. Magoo stopped in his tracks, and a cold glint flashed across his peach blossom eyes. Bitch? Song Woo-yo was a bitch. She's already hospitalized. Why don't you go and see her? Song Jo-yue asked. Do you think she'll die? Song Jo-mei gloated. No way. Didn't Magoo say yesterday that her injuries weren't serious? Oh. Song Jo-mei was a little disappointed. It's a pity that she didn't die. Song Jo-mei, don't talk nonsense. Song Jo-yue scolded. Although Song Jo-yue also hoped that Song Woo-yo would die, this was Magoo's home. If Magoo heard this, their elegant image in young Master Goo's heart would be ruined. I'm not talking nonsense. I've always wanted Song Woo-yo to die. Let's see who dares to snatch young Master Goo from you. Okay, stop talking. Help me put the chicken into the pot. When the soup is ready, send it to Song Woo-yo. Sister, why are you making soup for that bitch? Song Woo-yo was very unhappy. Magoo laughed. She kept calling her a bitch. Song Woo-yo was really unlucky to have such an elder sister. Song Woo-yo opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was the white ceiling of the ward. There was cold disinfectant at the tip of her nose. She sniffed it. There was also a faint, fragrant smell of tobacco. This smell couldn't be more familiar. Song Woo-yo turned her head slightly and looked at the man sitting on the chair. The man had one elbow on the back of the chair, supporting his entire body. The back of his hand gently supported his chin as he fell asleep. Song Woo-yo looked at him. In her dream just now, she had seen Dongfang Xian. Now, when she opened her eyes, she saw him with the same handsome face as Dongfang Xian. It was just that he lacked Dongfang Xian's innate ruthlessness, but he was just as noble and arrogant. Dongfang Xian was like a cheetah on the battlefield. And this man was even more ruthless in the business world. Song Woo-yo stared fixedly at Gu Yanhao's face. It was delicate and resolute, like a perfect work of art that had been carefully carved. The fringe on his forehead drooped slightly, adding some gentleness to him. His thin lips were very sexy. Her eyelashes were long and curly, so beautiful that it made people jealous. Is it really you? Song Woo-yo's eyes were filled with sadness, and there was even a trace of mist. Her mind was in a daze. Was what he dreamed of when he was unconscious a dream, or did his soul return to his previous life? She saw Dongfang Xian being killed on the battlefield. Song Woo-yo looked at Gu Yanhao sadly. Was he the reincarnation of Dongfang Xian? If not, why did the two of them look so much alike? When she thought of Dongfang Xian dying on the battlefield, Song Woo-yo's heart felt like it was being pricked by needles. She suddenly wanted to know what would happen to his country after she died. Would there be any enemy invasions? Would there be any wars? Suddenly, she missed him so much in her previous life, but when she thought of him and the Empress appearing in the cold palace together, Song Woo-yo's heart turned cold again. The way he looked at her was so cold, he said that she deserved to die. He had already treated her like this, so why should she still miss him? Cough, cough, Song Woo-yo's throat was a little hoarse and dry. She coughed twice uncomfortably. Her coughing woke Gu Yanhao up. Gu Yanhao opened his eyes abruptly. His deep eyes were bloodshot. You're awake. He sat up straight. Song Woo-yo responded and moved her body. She wanted to sit up, but she realized that Gu Yanhao's other hand was holding her hand the whole time. Chapter 114. You. She looked at Gu Yanhao in surprise. Had he been watching over her and holding her hand? Do you want some water? Gu Yanhao let go of her hand, his low voice a little stiff. Sigh, he still did not know how to take care of people. Now that it was his first time taking care of a woman, he felt a little uncomfortable. Yes. She sat up, wanting to drink water. Her throat was a little uncomfortable from the cough just now. I'll pour it for you. Gu Yanhao looked at her and did not forget to be domineering. Lie down obediently and don't move. Oh. Song Wuyo was actually very obedient. Gu Yanhao then got up with satisfaction and went to pour her water. Looking at his back, Song Wuyo was a little dazed. Was this a dream? Gu Yanhao was taking care of her. Pouring water for her personally. Where's Su Jing? She asked. In our villa. Gu Yanhao came back with the water and looked at her. This is the hospital closest to the farm. I did not tell Grandpa about your injury. Oh. Song Wuyo sat up with difficulty. I told you not to move. Seeing her sit up, Gu Yanhao strode over. He put down the cup with one hand and pressed her body with the other, staring at her fiercely. I just want to drink water. There's a straw. My whole body hurts. Song Wuyo frowned. How can it not hurt? Magu's statue was smashed by you. Gu Yanhao said coldly. Song Wuyo blinked. Her bones were not smashed. Was she that heavy? Gu Yanhao put down the straw and brought the water to her mouth. Drink. Song Wuyo raised her hand, wanting to take the cup. Gu Yanhao moved his hand and avoided her hand. Song Wuyo looked up and looked at him in confusion. If he did not let her take it, how could she drink it? Gu Yanhao looked straight at her and said domineeringly, I'll take it and you can drink it. Song Wuyo's heart skipped a beat. You're going to feed me. Gu Yanhao's ears turned red as he glared at her. Can't I? Song Wuyo smiled weakly. Does young Master Gu like me? But why was her heart so heavy? Aren't you thirsty? Why are you talking so much nonsense? Gu Yanhao's deep eyes flashed with embarrassment. You're slapping me in the face. Song Wuyo looked at him and smiled. Gu Yanhao did not understand. Whose face? Slap your own face. Damned woman. Drink it. Song Wuyo was not pretentious, because her mouth was really dry. She sucked on the straw and sipped the water. She did not look at Gu Yanhao, but looked elsewhere. Gu Yanhao looked at her steadily and stared at her little face. Song Wuyo, do you want me to ask before you tell me the truth? Song Wuyo looked up, her eyes full of confusion. What's the matter? Who is Dongfang Xian? When Song Wuyo heard this, he was so shocked that he choked on the water. Cough cough. Cough cough, ah, her throat hurt and her cough was stinging. Gu Yanhao stood there straight and looked at her coldly from the corner of his eyes. After she finished coughing, he said, Now that you've recovered, tell me who Dongfang Xian is. Song Wuyo lowered her head and frowned. How did he know? Did she talk in her sleep? Song Wuyo could not remember anything. Before she fainted, she said something she should not have said in front of him. Online game. Song Wuyo had a flash of inspiration. When she looked up, her eyes were crystal clear and did not look like she was lying. Dongfang Xian was him in that world. That world. Song Jume mistook it for an online game. She could only let Gu Yanhao think it was an online game. Online game. Gu Yanhao smiled coldly. Did she think he was a fool? Chapter 115. Song Wuyo nodded without batting an eyelid. You learned archery and horse riding in an online game. Gu Yanhao's gaze deepened as he looked at her. Archery was taught by you. Gu Yanhao had a half smile on his face. How about horse riding? Song Wuyo felt a little guilty. I don't know how to ride a horse. Gu Yanhao leaned forward, and his handsome face came closer. What followed was the seductive male hormones. Smelling his scent, Song Wuyo's heart skipped a beat. She looked at him defensively. What are you going to do? Gu Yanhao put the bottle of water on the bedside table. His sharp eyes were as deep as an ancient pool. Song Wuyo would be sucked into the magical ancient pool if she was not careful. You're lying. Gu Yanhao lifted his calloused index finger and stroked her soft lips. Waves of itchiness made Song Wuyo feel uncomfortable. She shook her head. I'm not lying. People who don't know how to ride a horse will panic and fall off when the horse starts to gallop wildly. He only felt that something was amiss after analyzing it slowly. The moment she was thrown down, it was very strange. No matter how hard she tried, she could not be thrown that high. The only answer was that this woman knew how to ride a horse. She deliberately let herself be thrown so high and fall so hard. I didn't fall because I held on to the rope tightly, Song Wuyo said softly. Actually, Gu Yanhao's analysis was not entirely correct. She only wanted to fall in front of him. She wanted to let Song Jiuyue slap her in the face. She did not expect. She had miscalculated and caused herself to fall onto the sculpture, causing her to be injured so badly. It was all Magu's fault. Why did he put up an artistic sculpture in the ranch? Is that so? Gu Yanhao pinched her chin. I've already asked Ade to investigate Dongfang Xian. Song Wuyo blinked and looked at him calmly. Go ahead. You won't be able to find this person. Dongfang Xian was his full name when he was young, but it was not his emperor's title. People nowadays didn't even know that the nickname of the emperor of the X dynasty was Dongfang Xian. Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows. He's dead. When Song Wuyo heard this, her heart sank. Yes, time travel. There was a difference of 3,000 years between that era and this era. He should have died. Gu Yanhao could clearly see the sadness in her eyes. Gu Yanhao's eyes were deep as he looked at her quietly. She lied to him, but he refused to tell her the truth. Song Wuyo looked at Gu Yanhao calmly. I'm awake. You can go back and sleep for a while. She had just woken up and saw him sitting there sleeping. He should be very tired. Gu Yanhao shook his head. I'll accompany you. I don't need an 4-drip now. You don't have to specially stay here to accompany me, Song Wuyo said. Anyway, I have nothing to do. Oh. Since she had nothing to do, she would accompany him. I want to sit up. It was inconvenient and uncomfortable to drink water while lying down like this. Gu Yanhao quickly got up. I'll help you up. You're not allowed to exert any strength. Also, your elbow is injured. Song Wuyo frowned. Only then did she realize that her left elbow was injured and had a layer of plaster cast. She looked at Gu Yanhao. Are you handicapped? No. Gu Yanhao said impassively. He helped her up and took a pillow to cushion her back. He even raised the head of the bed slightly so that she could sit more comfortably. Seeing that her lips were a little dry, Gu Yanhao took a glass of water and put it near her mouth. Drink more water. Song Wuyo drank with a straw. She was really thirsty. Song Jiuyue, who had arrived with chicken soup, saw Gu Yanhao feeding Song Wuyo water. There was a strange look in her eyes. Chapter 116. He had personally fed Song Wuyo water. He was the high and mighty young Master Gu. Since he was young, he had always been served by others. But now, he was serving Song Wuyo. Song Jiuyue was even more certain that Gu Yanhao had fallen in love with Song Wuyo. Song Jiuyue felt as if her heart had been pinched. She felt extremely uncomfortable. God, why didn't this slut fall to her death? Ah ho, is your Casanova disease acting up again? Magoo glanced at Song Jiuyue meaningfully and strode in. Magoo's voice did not affect them. Gu Yanhao looked at Song Wuyo. His deep voice carried a rare tenderness. Do you want more? She had finished the glass of water. It looked like she was really thirsty. No more, Song Wuyo said lightly. She looked very calm and indifferent. She was neither happy nor sad. Song Jiuyue saw this and scolded in her heart, pretentious. In the past, she used to pester young Master Gu and couldn't wait for young Master Gu to treat her well. Now that young Master Gu treats her well, she's putting on a, you should treat me well and I'm the queen look. Sluts are pretentious. However, she did not show these emotions on her face. She walked in with the chicken soup and looked at Song Wuyo with concern. Wuyo, how's your injury? Does it hurt? Song Wuyo looked up and looked at Song Jiuyue in surprise. Elder sister, are you concerned about me? The smile on Song Jiuyue's face froze slightly, but it only lasted for half a second. She glared at Song Wuyo reproachfully. What are you talking about? You're my sister. Of course I'm concerned about you when you're sad. Song Wuyo blinked and said innocently, Big sister, do horses hate it when people pluck their hair? Gu Yanhao straightened his back. When he heard Song Wuyo ask Song Jiuyue this question, his deep eyes darkened slightly. Magoo glanced at Song Wuyo, then looked at Song Jiuyue. Song Jiuyue's expression changed slightly. She tried to put on a natural smile and said, I think so. Then why did you pluck my horse's hair? Song Wuyo looked aggrieved. You know I can't ride a horse, but you still plucked my horse's hair. When Song Jiuyue heard this, her face suddenly turned pale. She glared at Song Wuyo and suppressed the anger in her chest. She smiled embarrassedly. I saw a stalk of grass on the horse's tail and wanted to remove it. Isn't it normal for horses to have grass on their tails? Gu Yanhao said coldly. When Song Jiuyue heard this, her heart tightened and she panicked. She tried to make herself appear more natural. I was just being careless. You were careless and caused me to suffer such a serious injury. Big sister, I'm very angry. Song Wuyo was so aggrieved that her eyes turned red. When Gu Yanhao saw this, he frowned. This woman knew how to act. Song Jiuyue was satisfied and apologetic. It's my fault. I want you to apologize to me. Song Jiuyue was stunned and instinctively looked at Gu Yanhao. What she saw was Gu Yanhao's back and the top of his head. She didn't know what kind of expression he had at this moment. She wanted to hear him tell Song Wuyo that she didn't need to apologize. But, hurry up and apologize. Wuyo is not in a good mood. His cold voice was heard. When Song Jiuyue heard this, her heart ached. Song Jiuyue secretly gritted her teeth. Damn Song Wuyo. I'm sorry, Wuyo. Song Jiuyue looked at Song Wuyo with a face full of regret. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have meddled. Song Wuyo looked at her faintly, looking incomparably innocent. Her gaze made Song Jiuyue's hair stand on end. Chapter 117. She had already apologized to her. Could it be that she still wanted to expose her in front of young Master Gu and Magoo? Song Jiuyue looked up and quickly gave Song Wuyo a warning look. And Magoo happened to see this look. Magoo raised his eyebrows and looked at her, then at Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo wanted to provoke Song Jiuyue with her eyes. But from the corner of her eye, she saw Magoo and Gu Yanhao looking at her. She could only show a helpless expression. If you can apologize to me, it means that you didn't do it on purpose. Big sister, I'm sorry. I thought you deliberately made me fall off the horse, so I was very angry and scolded you in my heart. I'm really sorry. Song Wuyo thought for a while and looked at Song Juyue. When Song Juyue heard this, her face turned green and then white. She was sure that Song Wuyo did it on purpose. She said these words to let Gu Yanhao and Magoo think that she really did pull the ponytail on purpose. She also wanted to show how generous she was in front of them, so that she would be embarrassed in front of them. Song Juyue sneered in her heart. What kind of situation had she not seen before? She would be embarrassed like this. Dream on. Song Juyue suppressed her bad mood very well. She smiled at Song Wuyo and said, I admit that I didn't like you very much in the past. That was all because you were too insensible. But no matter how much I don't like you, I can't hurt you. I knew that you didn't know how to ride a horse, but I deliberately pulled the ponytail. Wasn't I courting death? Besides, your personality has changed a lot recently. You're not as unreasonable as before. I'm happy for you. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore. I've made chicken soup for you. Drink it quickly. With that, Song Juyue poured out the chicken soup. Song Wuyo looked at Song Juyue. Song Juyue was indeed Song Juyue. She could clear her name with just a few words. Come, drink the soup. Song Juyue glanced at Song Wuyo's injured arm. I'll feed you. Let me. Gu Yanhao suddenly reached out to take Song Juyue's soup bowl. Song Juyue's smile froze. She lowered her head and looked at the good-looking but calloused hand in front of her. Song Wuyo raised the corner of her lips and looked at Song Juyue with a smile. Her beautiful eyes were unreadable. Magoo pulled a chair over and sat beside her, looking at her silently. After a long time, Song Juyue placed the soup bowl in his hands. Gu Yanhao looked up and glanced at her coldly. Didn't you hear me? Song Juyue laughed uncontrollably. No, let me do this kind of work, young Master Gu. What kind of work? Gu Yanhao asked coldly. Feeding Wuyo soup, feeding Wuyo soup. What kind of work is that? Song Juyue did not know how to answer. Song Wuyo laughed and said, what big sister means is that young Master Gu is of noble status. Feeding me soup is done by the servants. You're a young master who has been served badly and clumsy. How would you know how to feed me soup? When Song Juyue heard this, she glanced at Song Wuyo and scolded in her heart, slut. Was she trying to say that she was a servant in front of young Master Gu? On the surface, she was helping her out, but she understood what she was trying to say. Is that so? Gu Yanhao looked up and looked at Song Juyue coldly. Song Juyue said no, but she did not know how to explain that she wanted to feed Song Wuyo soup personally. If she said yes, wouldn't she be admitting that her status was not noble enough to serve Song Wuyo? Did she have to say that she was jealous and did not want to see him feed Song Wuyo soup? Chapter 118. He did not know how to answer. Song Juyue looked at Gu Yanhao quietly and gently placed the bowl of soup in his hand. Gu Yanhao held the bowl of soup and looked at Song Wuyo. Magoo raised his eyebrows. He could clearly see that the way Gu Yanhao looked at Song Wuyo was different from the way he looked at them. Even if he was cold, it was a different kind of cold. Gu Yanhao scooped up a spoonful of soup and put it to his lips to test the temperature. It was still hot. He exhaled softly and blew. Song Wuyo looked at his considerate actions and could not help but frown. Her mind was in a daze again. In her previous life, Dongfang Xian was also very considerate. However, ever since he became the king, this kind of consideration no longer applied to her. Open your mouth. Gu Yanhao brought the spoon to her mouth, but she looked at him in a daze. Gu Yanhao's eyes deepened as he said in a deep voice. Song Wuyo came back to her senses, opened her mouth, and drank the soup that he fed her. She swallowed it. It was soup and did not taste very good. She looked up and glanced at Song Jiuyue and frowned slightly. Song Jiuyue was secretly unhappy with her actions. She was obviously dissatisfied with the chicken soup that she made. What's wrong? Does it not taste good? Gu Yanhao asked. I think I didn't add any salt. Song Wuyo looked embarrassed to expose her. I did. Song Jiuyue immediately explained, maybe I didn't add enough. I don't usually cook. This was the first time that Song Jiuyue made soup for a woman she hated. At this moment, she really wanted to slap herself. Why did she pluck her horse's hair when she had nothing to do? It's okay. It does taste bad, but I'm an injured person. I should drink a light soup with less salt. Song Wuyo smiled graciously. Song Jiuyue secretly gritted her teeth. Song Wuyo, I made chicken soup for you. Not only did you not thank me, you even said that it tasted bad in front of Master Gu and Migu. She even deliberately reminded them that she was injured so that they would care for her. Song Jiuyue looked at Song Wuyo. When did this arrogant woman become so scheming? Just make do with it. When your body recovers, you can eat whatever you want. Gu Yanhao's tone was unusually gentle. Song Jiuyue was slightly stunned and looked at him in disbelief. Song Wuyo smiled sweetly. I want to eat something you made yourself. Her pale face carried a sweet smile, like a snow lotus blooming in the snow, especially beautiful and dazzling. Gu Yanhao and Migu were both surprised by her smile, and their eyes were locked on her face. As long as you don't mind that it tastes bad. Gu Yanhao smiled and his voice was gentle. Marrying a man who doesn't know how to cook is really not an honorable thing. Song Wuyo pursed her lips and looked at him with some disdain. I can learn. Gu Yanhao said confidently. I'm born smart. I can learn everything quickly. Humph. Song Wuyo believed him, but her face was full of disdain. If you want to eat beggar's chicken, teach me when you're discharged. If you want to eat it in the future, you don't have to do it. I'll make it. Why are you suddenly so good to me? Song Wuyo looked at Gu Yanhao with a serious face. Gu Yanhao looked at her deeply. I've thought it through. Since I married you, I have to be a good husband. When Song Wuyo heard this, her heart palpitated fiercely. Migu's peach blossom eyes blinked, and his gaze locked on Song Wuyo's face shifted to Gu Yanhao's face. When did this man learn how to show off his love? Song Jiuyue's expression became worse as she listened to their conversation. She said hurriedly, Jiumei is still waiting for me to eat. I'll go back first. Chapter 119. As soon as she walked out of the ward, Song Jiuyue's tears fell uncontrollably. Thinking of Gu Yanhao's indifference to her and his meticulous care for Song Wuyo, she felt extremely wronged. Song Wuyo liked Gu Yanhao when she was 13 years old. However, she liked Gu Yanhao when she was sensible. She liked Gu Yanhao even before Song Wuyo, and she knew Gu Yanhao even before Song Wuyo. Why didn't Gu Yanhao marry her in the end, but Song Wuyo? Could it be that he married Song Wuyo because she was thick-skinned and kept pestering him? Song Jiumei was waiting outside the hospital. Song Jiumei did not like Song Wuyo, so she did not go in to see her. Seeing Song Joyue come out crying, Song Jome was surprised. Big sister, why are you crying? Song Joyue ignored Song Jome and got into the car angrily. Song Jome was in charge of driving. She sat in the driver's seat and did not start the car immediately. Instead, she turned sideways and looked at Song Joyue anxiously. Did that bitch bully you? Young Master Gu didn't like Song Wuyo at all in the past. Song Joyue said in a choked voice, her voice filled with hatred for Song Wuyo. Although she did not like Song Wuyo, her arrogant sister, she was not mean to her when she was in the Song family. When she found out that Song Wuyo liked Gu Yanhao, she disliked her even more. Later, Song Wuyo married Gu Yanhao and she started to hate Song Wuyo. Now that she saw Gu Yanhao treating her so well, she hated Song Wuyo even more. What did Song Wuyo do to make Gu Yanhao treat her so well all of a sudden? What's wrong? Song Jome was confused. If young Master Gu treated Song Wuyo well, she wouldn't cry like this. Song Jome rarely saw Song Joyue cry. He personally fed Song Wuyo soup, and Song Wuyo even complained that the soup I made was not good. Not only did he not scold Song Wuyo, he even comforted her and said that he would personally cook for her when she recovered. When Song Jome heard this, a hint of jealousy and hatred flashed across her eyes. Song Wuyo, that bitch, really has a good life. Young Master Gu has never done any household chores and his status is incomparably noble. He actually lowered his status for Song Wuyo and went into the kitchen to cook for her. Song Joyue clenched her fists tightly. I hate him so much. Song Jome frowned and was a little worried. Young Master Gu is suddenly so good to Song Wuyo. Is Song Wuyo pregnant? When Song Joyue heard this, she became a little agitated. How is that possible? If she was pregnant, wouldn't she have a miscarriage if she fell off the horse? Song Jome thought for a moment and said, that's true. It's all your fault. Song Joyue suddenly swept a sharp gaze over her. Song Jome was stunned and looked at Song Joyue timidly. Big sister, why are you blaming me again? Could he not put all the blame on her? It's because young Master Gu slept with Song Wuyo last time that he treated Song Wuyo well. It's all your own initiative. You thought you were smart and drugged Song Wuyo. When Song Jome heard this, she felt very wronged. How would I know that it would be a coincidence? I don't know. Why does our Song family have such a stupid person like you? Big sister, do you think I want young Master Gu to treat Song Wuyo well? I drugged Song Wuyo because I wanted her reputation to be completely ruined so that young Master Gu would be determined to divorce her. Young Master Gu was determined to divorce her in the first place. It's all because of you that they slept together. Song Joyue looked at Song Jome coldly and placed all the blame on her. Chapter 120. Song Jome was so aggrieved that her eyes turned red. Sister, I'm not trying to set them up. Stop it. Song Joyue suddenly growled at Song Jome. No one could see her in her own car, so she did not need to hide her emotions. Although Song Jome knew Song Joyue's temper, she felt extremely aggrieved to be yelled at and wronged. Her red eyes overflowed with tears, and her hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. She tried hard to swallow the sobs in her throat. It's a fact that young Master Gu treats Song Wuyo well. If you want young Master Gu to hate Song Wuyo like before, you have to think of a way to ruin Song Wuyo's reputation, Song Joyue said coldly. What reputation does Song Wuyo have that hasn't been ruined? Song Jome asked in confusion, her voice choked with sobs. Hasn't she become very ladylike recently? Even the way she dresses is different. Think of a way to make her return to how she used to be. How can I make her return to how she used to be? After drinking the chicken soup, Song Wuyo felt sleepy. Gu Yanhao helped her lie down and even covered her with the blanket. Looking up, he saw Megu still sitting there. He raised his eyebrows and his dark eyes were frighteningly deep. Why aren't you leaving? The man's voice was cold. Megu's peach blossom eyes flashed and his lips curled into a devilish smile. I'm waiting for you to treat me to a meal. I want to accompany my wife, Gu Yanhao said coldly. You have to eat to accompany your wife. Song Wuyo looked at Gu Yanhao. You and Megu should go out for a meal. I'm not hungry. Gu Yanhao looked at Song Wuyo. His deep, dark eyes were very calm. Song Wuyo's heart skipped a beat. Megu came over and grabbed Gu Yanhao's arm. There's still a long way to go about accompanying your wife. Let's go out for dinner. Gu Yanhao wanted to shake off Megu. He frowned and looked at Megu's hand in disdain. Two grown men pulling and pulling each other, what kind of scandal was this? However, Song Wuyo seemed to be driving them away. All of you, go out. I can't sleep well with someone around. Did you hear that? Your wife doesn't like you pestering her. Megu joked. However, when Gu Yanhao heard this, his heart clenched slightly. As he was dragged out by Megu, he turned around to look at Song Wuyo. Her eyes were wide open, and she looked at him with a hint of sleepiness. She was looking at him indifferently. There was no reluctance. It was as if his presence or absence did not matter. No, it should be that she preferred his absence. Gu Yanhao's brows furrowed even tighter. Was it really as Megu had said, that she didn't like him pestering her? He thought of the past. In the past, she was always pestering him. So this was what it felt like to be hated by someone you liked. Gu Yanhao walked out of the ward and shook off Megu's hand. His expression was cold. Megu looked at his gloomy face and said, I'll treat you to a meal, okay? I don't care. He had money. If Wuyo needs it, you should let her have a good rest. If you starve yourself, who's going to take care of her? Megu shook his head. I really don't understand you. In the past, it was Song Wuyo who pestered you. Now, you're the one pestering Song Wuyo. Is this what they mean by every dog has its day? Gu Yanhao came back from dinner an hour later. He pushed the door open with the food container. When he saw Song Wuyo lying on the hospital bed with her eyes closed, he lightened his footsteps. He walked over to the bed and stood erect. He lowered his head and looked at Song Wuyo with a deep gaze. Chapter 121. Song Wuyo's face was pale, but her skin was delicate and fair. Looking at it like this, it was so fair that it was almost transparent. There was a tinge of morbid beauty to it. When he thought of how she had not fully recovered from the car accident and had fallen off the back of a horse, Gu Yanhao's heart ached. Gu Yanhao placed the lunchbox on the bedside table and sat down. He stared at her without blinking. Her pale face did not have any makeup on, but it was even prettier than if she had. As he looked at her, Gu Yanhao felt that Song Wuyo was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen in his life. In the past, he did not have the chance to see her true face clearly. Firstly, she had put on a thick layer of makeup. The powder on her face was thick and colorful, making her look extremely ugly. Secondly, he had not observed her carefully in the past. Whenever he saw her face with heavy makeup, he would feel disgusted. Now that she did not put on any powder, she looked much better than before. She could obviously use her face to please others, but she had to court death by putting on such a disgusting face. It was simply a waste to put on makeup on such a beautiful face. Gu Yanhao reached out, wanting to touch this fair and beautiful face. Just as he was about to touch her, he suddenly thought of something and paused. His hand froze in midair. He looked at Song Wuyo's eyes in a daze. After staring at her for a few seconds, he finally retracted his hand. Just as he retracted his hand, Song Wuyo opened her eyes. "When did you come back?" The moment she opened her eyes, she saw a living person sitting there. Song Wuyo's clear eyes quickly had a tinge of wariness and vigilance. "I just came back." Gu Yanhao took the lunchbox and said in a low voice, "Are you hungry? I've packed some porridge for you." Song Wuyo looked at him in surprise when she heard that. He was the young master of the Gu family. Packed? What kind of image did he have when he was dressed in expensive clothes and carried a lunchbox with him? He must have attracted a lot of attention, right? "What porridge?" Song Wuyo asked. Actually, she was a little hungry. As soon as Gu Yanhao and Migu left, the doctor came over to check on her body. She said that she could eat some light meals. She was thinking of ordering takeout after taking a nap. Millet porridge, very fragrant. Gu Yanhao could easily help Song Wuyo up with one arm. Millet porridge. Song Wuyo loved to eat millet cakes in her previous life. "You're feeding me again." Song Wuyo looked up at Gu Yanhao. Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows, a trace of a smile on his handsome face. "Can't I? I'll do it myself." Song Wuyo couldn't get used to his sudden kindness. "Why are you here?" Gu Yanhao looked at her plaster cast hand with interest. Song Wuyo followed his gaze and looked at her injured hand. "Sigh, when will this hand recover?" Seeing that she did not refute, Gu Yanhao curled his lips in satisfaction and revealed a charming smile. "Migu has gone back?" Song Wuyo asked. "Yeah," Gu Yanhao replied indifferently. He scooped a spoonful of porridge, blew on it, and brought it to Song Wuyo's mouth. Song Wuyo opened her mouth and the porridge entered her mouth. The fragrance of the porridge filled her entire mouth. "It smells so good." Song Wuyo smiled and said softly. "Finish it." Song Wuyo looked at the bowl in Gu Yanhao's hand. It wasn't very big. Even if the porridge was full, it was fine to finish it. The millet porridge was really fragrant, and Song Wuyo was hungry, so it didn't take long for her to finish it. After feeding her, Gu Yanhao stayed in the ward to accompany her. When she slept, he slept with her and watched television with her. In the blink of an eye, it was night time. The problem came at night. Chapter 122. Song Wuyo wanted to take a shower, but her left arm was in a cast. After shooting an arrow and riding a horse, her body was covered in sweat. She was then sent to the hospital because of her injury. Until now, she had not taken a shower. She could even smell a strange odor on her body. Now that it was dark, she planned to take a shower and sleep. When Gu Yanhao knew that she wanted to take a shower, he insisted on helping her. What? He was helping her. Song Wuyo rejected him immediately. She was Imperial Concubine Song. How could she let a man help her take a shower? Oh, she forgot that she was no longer Imperial Concubine Song. She was Gu Yanhao's wife. Gu Yanhao took the clean hospital gown into the bathroom and came back. He stood upright in front of the bed and looked down at Song Wuyo with a smile. "I'll carry you to the shower," he said in a low voice. "I'm not taking a shower." So be it if she felt uncomfortable. In her previous life, it was normal not to take a shower for 7 days, let alone 2 nights during the war. "I can smell the stench of sweat on your body. Can't you smell it?" Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows. Who would dislike the stench on their body? Song Wuyo said angrily. Stop pretending. I can see the desire to take a shower in your eyes. Gu Yanhao bent down and wanted to carry her. Song Wuyo was shocked and stared at him. What are you doing? Gu Yanhao was stunned by her intense reaction. Gu Yanhao looked at her deeply and said calmly, I'll carry you to the shower. I already said that I don't need it. She could not help but blush when she thought of that scene. Gu Yanhao's eyes darkened. It's not up to you. He stretched out his arm and easily picked her up. Gu Yanhao. Song Wuyo wanted to scold him. Song Wuyo, you used to think of ways to get naked in front of me. Now that you have the chance, why don't you cherish it? Gu Yanhao curled his lips and revealed a faint sneer. He laughed at her and at himself. In the past, she had tried all sorts of ways to strip naked in front of him, but he didn't care at all. Now, he wanted her to strip naked in front of him, but she didn't care. Just as Migu had said, every dog has its day. When Song Wuyo heard this, her heart felt as if it had been pricked by a needle. She felt very uncomfortable. She glared at Gu Yanhao coldly. I only hurt my hand. I can walk to the bathroom. Also, don't bring up the past so easily, okay? This would only make him seem petty. Gu Yanhao lowered his head and looked at her deeply. In the bathroom, he put her down. Get out, I can do it myself. Song Wuyo resisted. Gu Yanhao curled his lips. Really? Sure. Why are you taking off your clothes? Gu Yanhao looked at her. I have my ways, Song Wuyo said coldly. In her previous life, what kind of injuries had she not suffered during the war? Gu Yanhao looked at her seriously. You really don't need my help. No need. Song Wuyo glared at him. How many times do I have to say this? I said I can do it myself. Get out. Gu Yanhao caught a trace of disgust in her eyes. His eyes darkened and so did his heart. All right then, I'll be outside. Call me if you need anything, Gu Yanhao said in a low voice as he looked at her pondering for a moment. Before he could step out, Song Wuyo hurriedly closed the door and locked it as if she was afraid that he would change his mind. Hearing the sound of the door being locked, Gu Yanhao stopped in his tracks. In a place where Song Wuyo couldn't see, a trace of sadness flashed past his deep eyes. Chapter 123. She was rejecting him. The way she looked at him was no longer infatuated with him, but indifferent. He could have forced her to take a bath. However, he was afraid that doing so would only make her hate him even more. Gu Yanhao returned to the chair and sat down. He looked at the bathroom door thoughtfully. At this moment, Ade came in. Sensing that someone had come in, Gu Yanhao's eyes turned cold and he turned around. Young master. Ade walked quickly to Gu Yanhao's side. Speak. I got Madame G. Air's hair. Ade had followed Madame G. Air for a day and a night. He knew that she was going to get a haircut, so he got it from the hairdresser with great difficulty. Gu Yanhao's gaze fell on the bed. There were a few strands of hair on the pillow that Song Wuyo had used as a pillow. Gu Yanhao reached out, picked up 2 strands of hair, and handed them to Ade. His expression was cold. I want to know the results as soon as possible. Ade took the hair and put it into a small transparent plastic bag. Young master, I found out who Dongfang Xian is. Ade's eyes flashed with a strange look. Gu Yanhao's eyes flashed. Speak. It's the nickname of the emperor of the Axe dynasty. This information is going to disappear soon. After listening to Ade's words, Gu Yanhao looked at him coldly. I want you to investigate the modern Dongfang Xian, not the ancient Dongfang Xian. Moreover, it was a dynasty from 3,500 years ago. Aude was in a difficult position. I've checked. There's no one called Dongfang Xian in the modern era. Continue to check. Aude nodded. Okay. Gu Yanhao thought for a while and said, organize the information of the emperor of the X dynasty and give it to me. Yes. Aude left. Gu Yanhao narrowed his eyes and looked indifferently at the bathroom. The sound of water splashing could be heard from the bathroom. Presumably, the person inside was taking a bath. At this moment, his phone on the bedside table rang. Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows and reached for the phone. It was an email from Aude. He opened it and saw that it was information about the emperors of the X dynasty. Gu Yanhao opened it without hesitation. He read every word very carefully. This information was a little different from the previous auction where the host introduced the emperor and noble consort song. According to the information provided by Aude, the empress of the X dynasty was not noble consort song. It was only after noble consort song passed away that the emperor bestowed her the title of empress. Gu Yanhao didn't know how he finished reading the information. To be honest, he had no interest in history. He had a clever mind for business, but he was not omniscient about history. After reading this information, he suddenly became very interested in the X dynasty. This was a very detailed information. It recorded the emperor's conquest of the country very clearly and vividly. What made Gu Yanhao even more interested was that there was a noble consort song who fought side by side with the emperor. This woman was not inferior to a man. In that era, she made a lot of contributions. After reading the information, Gu Yanhao held his phone in a daze. Aude had investigated for so long, but he only found this Dongfang Xian. Gu Yanhao thought of what Song Wuyo said before she fainted. He frowned. Who was the Dongfang Xian that Song Wuyo mentioned? Was it the assassin who killed the former president? Or was it the murderer who killed the dancer, Yang Xiaolan? No matter who it was, with Aude's ability, it was impossible for him not to find out. Suddenly, the sound of water in the bathroom stopped. Gu Yanhao looked up. The person inside was done bathing. He decided to wait for Song Wuyo to come out and have a good chat with her. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.